Hello! Today we have the 16-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro chip on our table. Have fun with the video! Welcome to our channel. If you're new to our channel, we would be very happy if you leave us a subscription here. As you have already seen in the introduction, today we have the MacBook Pro 16-inch on our table. First of all, I'm not an Apple fanboy and I have only been using Windows and Android devices for years. But since my Windows computer is currently no longer able to manage my 4K videos from YouTube, I thought that I would like to give Apple a chance. After all, many creators always say this should work so well on Mac. So I have now got to the point of trying to convince myself of this. If you want me to create a video with my experiences later, then feel free to leave me a comment. Even when I am supposed to try special things. So you can write this to me in the comments. Well, as you have seen the whole time in the background, the MacBook comes in a brown cardboard box. This contains the usual packaging as you know it from the most Apple products. However, I saw some other YouTube videos that the MacBooks were not wrapped in foil. But mine is foiled. But I don't know why. Otherwise the data of my device are only on the back. As you can see, I have the 16-inch device with M1 Pro 10-core CPU and 16-core GPU, 16GB of RAM and 1TB SSD. Okay, let's remove the foil. The MacBook fits perfectly in the box. Under the MacBook we find the paperwork, the charging cable and the power adapter. There's a nice recess in the box for everything. So nothing should break during transport. But what does the nicest packaging do for us? The rest has also to fit. Here is a quick overview of the content of the package. So let's take a look at each one. As always, we go from the accessories to the main product. Let's start with the paperwork. This can be found in an envelope. But more than half of the envelope is actually just cardboard. Here we have the typical Apple stickers. These are apparently black now, which has never been seen before. But since I am new to the Apple universe, I cannot confirm this. Otherwise we have a warranty card and a description of the device. Now we come to the charging cable. This is secured in this cardboard holder for transport. But at least it's very good that Apple does without plastic here. Here we have the cable. As you all probably already know, here is a Magsafe and a USB-C cable. The nice new thing is that the cable is now sleeved white. In terms of quality, this looks okay. But I only noticed that the Magsafe connection is silver and the USB-C is white. But the silver Magsafe cable doesn't actually match the space gray color either. Is this mix of colors on purpose? If you know this, please write in the comments. Now we come to the power supply. On this side we find a matte Apple logo. There's a small white USB port on the front. On the upper side we find the fully assembled EU plug. But this is interchangeable. However, you don't get this adapter included. Otherwise, the power supply for my device is a 140 watts power supply. The smaller 14-inch MacBook has another weaker power supply. The processing is okay. There are a few unsightly plastic gaps, but the power supply usually only ends up under the table anyway. Now we come to the biggest and most important part, the MacBook itself. This is protected by paper. Here we have the beautiful piece. So, from the top the device is kept nice and clean. I have the color Space Gray here. The surface is typically Apple matte and the logo is mirrored. On the underside we find an engraved MacBook Pro lettering. A little further down we have the typical text that are required by law. Here you can immediately see the edge of the removable cover on the underside. Of course, this runs completely around the device. Right and left are two large slots. I think these are for air supply. Otherwise the gap between display and the lower part looks nice and clean. Let's open the whole thing. This is probably my Mac moment. Get rid of the paper. As you can see, the device greets us directly without us having to do anything. But since you can immediately see the notch here, let's take a look at it. Well, you notice it, and of course it is a bit strange. But since I used it to create this video from the text to the edit, I can tell you that in most of the time you don't actually notice it. I think the black keypad is optically okay. The touchpad itself is of course huge. And my hand is not the smallest. I will just set up the device for a moment. Complete. Let's take a closer look of the rest of the MacBook. What I noticed during the setup is the black matte bar below the screen. I think it would have been nicer to pull the glass all the way down. Otherwise, there's a small but fine plastic strip around the display that protects the display from touching the bottom part. The upper two corners are rounded and the lower two angular. The hinge itself should be made of metal and is attached at 2 points. Here, however, a relatively sharp edge has remained. The ventilation outlets can also be found on the hinge. These are a bit difficult to see, I hope you can see them in the video. The hinge is okay in terms of effort. However, the display cannot be completely folded back. To the left and right of the keyboard we find the dotted surface for the speakers. The keyboard itself looks okay. The button clicks cleanly and have a nice feel. The touchpad also works fine and clicks nicely everywhere. On the underside there are 8 screws and 4 legs. However, these don't feel like rubber. Either this is a special type of rubber or they are made of plastic. but in terms of slip resistance, this seemed okay. So the MacBook sits reasonably firmly on my table. Here we have the back of the hinge for a moment. And directly below you can easily see the ventilation outlets that I mentioned earlier. So I suspect that the slot in the front side area suck in and blow out again at the back. Unfolding with one finger also works fine. And when closing, there is a point where the display closes itself. I won't have to tell you much about the connections. I think you will have received enough information here. But again at high speed. On the left there's a Magsafe to Thunderbolt and a jack connection. On the right we find the HDMI, Thunderbolt and SD card slot. Well, then we quickly weight the device at the end. The notebook has 2150 grams. That feels in a medium weight range. I have seen heavy but also lighter devices. But I find it okay for the size. Now to my conclusion. As I said, I'm usually not an Apple user. So I see everything from the perspective of a newbie. The processing is so far externally okay. But it would be sad if the device was a disaster from the outside at that price. The display is also okay, but it doesn't really knock me off my feet. In terms of performance, I have currently only edited this video. This worked reasonably well for me as Windows user. For the test, I also rendered a video one by one on my Windows computer and once on the new MacBook. The result here was that the MacBook was about 3 times as fast. But it has to be said that my Windows PC is not a current model. My Windows computer is now several years old again. Therefore it is not a fair comparison. So if you properly take a current PC in the same price range, the difference will not be so big. My audio overlay is also recorded directly with the MacBook microphones. So here you have a direct comparison to my other videos. Otherwise the device is okay. But I don't recommend the device for people who only surf the internet or do simple tasks. The price is simply too high for such tasks. For everyone else I can currently only make a neutral statement. But I will continue to test the device for the next few weeks. So, if you want me to create a video about my experiences, please let me know in the comments. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the video. Maybe my opinion of the device will change after a while, but currently it doesn't knock me off my feet. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please leave us a like, sub or comment. See you next time.